Hi, my name is Kazim Kodri, and welcome to my rant. So yeah, today we'll be talking about imposter syndrome, and this was supposed to be like one of the first topics I would have dropped this season, but for some reasons I kept pushing it back because something new was always coming up, and I just wanted to like switch. And also, yeah, I took a poll, some sort of like a poll. I sent messages to a lot of my contacts on WhatsApp, and I got new topics to talk about. And imposter syndrome was still one of them. So I just decided like, okay, I think I need to give this a shot. But yeah, so that's it. So imposter syndrome, it's something I don't know, maybe other professions really feel it as much as I do or we do in tech, because it's something I notice even the biggest people in tech have experienced, and the newbies always experience it. And it happened to me, like the first time I felt that was I think in 2019. So yeah, I was learning C# then. I originally just started learning programming, so I started with C#, and the person that was teaching me, which was I had like two people teaching me. I had a supervisor, I had a friend who was also working there at the moment and was putting me through C# at that time. And yeah, he would help me out, give questions, resolve, and there were sometimes we started working together. So our supervisor was giving us jobs and we were working together. And he has one issue and I have that same issue. But he just looks at it in how many seconds and he fixes. And I'm like, okay, what's going on here? Yeah. One of the things I neglected was the fact that he had, like, I think 2 years prior experience writing C# before I did. Before then, I was just writing HTML, CSS, working on WordPress application, dabbling into some few programming languages, but not sticking to anything that would like give me that kind of experience I needed, right? So, but yeah, he had that amount of experience, and I always neglected that fact. I just felt so we are literally both learning at the same time, right? We watch the same tutorials. So it's not like there's one, I wasn't expecting like there's one magical thing he was doing that was different from what I was at the moment. So I just like, okay, well, something is definitely wrong with me. Like I guess I'm not good enough, or I should just stop this whole charade. I always felt like it was a charade because in my head it was like I was a fraud. Like I wasn't good enough. That what was I doing here? And this feeling was growing. So I've seen people where this whole imposter syndrome became some sort of like hatred. So it can even be hatred to yourself, hatred to some other people. So that's where envy sometimes come in, right? But for me, what it simply was I just felt I wasn't good enough. Like I was a fraud. Literally, I said that a lot of times. I told some friends, I just brought it up in some conversations. Like I felt like a fraud because it's like you are telling me to do something and all I could do was I think about the problem, I don't get the solution, I go on Google, I search, I find something, I copy some codes, modify it, think of how to do it, and I paste it and it works. You understand? So that was how I felt at the moment. Like, okay, guy, you are just wasting your time here. Everybody just looking at you and be laughing at you at some point because you're not really like good enough to do this job. And this feeling happens a lot. The first day I discovered that it happened to like big guys in tech was when I was watching a video, and the title of the video was like imposter syndrome too. And he mentioned that he goes through this, that he happens to him even at this current point of his career, but how he handles it. And one of the first things he said was like, okay, he works on project constantly. I was like, but he's working on project that causes this imposter syndrome for me, because when I'm working on something and I don't get it fixed, I get that feeling, and it comes and it's like a bell in my head, and I continually like have that, you're not good enough, you're not good enough, you're not good enough. That stuff stuck with me, and I think it has a backstory, but way back to the fact that I think when I was in secondary school, and some people said some things, and those things stuck with me also. So I feel most of the time these feelings come from compilation of other little feelings, other things. And thankfully, I had a mom that was the best, right? I have two moms, but so I was with my second mom at that moment, right? And she really helped me a lot, because she said something one day, and she was like, "If anybody can do this, you can." It's like you know, when you don't believe in yourself, and she finds a way to make you believe in yourself. That was like one of the gingers I had at that point. So it was like, you can do this thing. And that's continuous saying that thing continuously changed my perspective a bit. So I will just mention some of the few things I did and I do constantly to, should I say, I don't want to say harness the imposter syndrome, but I would say to handle it or manage it. That's what I would say. So one of the first things is I get encouragement from other people. Yeah, people might say you are the only one that will be able to motivate yourself. That's very true. And I think I spoke about this in like one of the first episodes of this podcast about how motivation works. So you get the internal one and you get the external one. But sincerely, most times I get motivated by other people. Sometimes it's more of like an addiction. So it's like someone just says, "You're very good," and the moment I hear that you're very good, it's not like sometimes I'm like always looking for someone to motivate me or something like that. No, but you just telling me I'm very good, I might at that moment maybe be thinking, I didn't do this thing very well. But you telling me I'm very good makes me have like some sort of like shift perspective on the current situation at hand. So I try to take compliments in. I try to take this encouragement, and I get that a lot from family and friends, a lot, because as I mentioned earlier, my mom, the best, my sisters also, so my friends too. Like sometimes I just feel like, I remember when I started feeling like, okay, I'm a fraud, and I spoke to one of my friends, and he was like, "Guy, look at your track record. Like, you have done this and this. If you're a fraud, you wouldn't have come this far." So these people in my life were like some sort of like support system that could always bring me back to reality, because it's not reality when I start feeling like a fraud. It's something totally different in my head. That's one of the things I try to do. And secondly, from that video I watched, working on projects. So I can't really like give a very clear example of something outside of tech, but I'll stick to what I know best, which is whenever I'm working on a project, or whenever I feel like I don't understand something very well, which is like I'm learning something new at the first time. That happens almost every time. I then pick up a project. I start working on it. The more I feel that feeling, the more I try to motivate myself to continue working on a project. And by the time I'm done with the project, I'm like, okay, yeah, I could do this. That means all those feelings were just false. So I take up the next project. I start working on that things, learning. So this stuff is just like, I don't say you keep going, because if you say you keep going, it sounds vague, but work on things, work on projects. Projects are long-term things. So if you say you're just learning something and you're working on something small, that's small and you drop it, by the time you want to pick up something else, it doesn't help. But if you work on long-term projects, this always help, always. So work on long-term projects that you stick to it, like keep motivation yourself. That way it really helps me a lot when I work on projects. In fact, I recently started learning React, and okay, I think I picked up Angular before React, but you might know, if you don't understand what React is, I don't want to bore you, but yeah, it's just a framework to build websites, or a library, correctly termed. But I picked up React, and at first it made sense. But when I was working on a project, I started having issues. I was like, okay, I guess I didn't learn this a lot. And that imposter syndrome was coming back again, which was feeling the fraud, like being a fraud and all those things. Then I just stopped to another project, and I was doing more on that thing. Whenever I feel bad, I take a break sometimes. I come back again. When I take break, I watch other tutorials. Then I come back again. I'll write more code. That is how I've been pushing myself constantly to learn this thing. Constantly. So that's how projects help me. And I'm talking about the other two reasons or two steps I take to help myself after the break. So yeah, welcome back. Now, I mentioned getting motivated and support from external sources, which are my family and friends, and also working on projects. Now, the third thing I do is I try to pray about it. Not, I don't say that to sound spiritual, but like, I'm a Christian, and I believe the spiritual realm controls the physical. So, if I want something to manifest on earth, the only means I can do that is through prayer. So, speaking to my father. So sometimes I feel bad, and I don't think I'm the kind of person that prays all these. Yeah, like pray very intensively, but I try to make my prayers more of a conversation. I try my best, which is when I feel that way, I just, okay, God, this is how I'm feeling. I don't know what to do. You understand? And I just pour out my feelings to God at that moment, and after some time, I just feel this sort of peace. It happens almost every time. And sometimes I forget to do that, which is when I start banging my head and start saying, I'm not too good, blah, blah, blah. Like, but like, anytime I come back to my senses and I just go down on my knees, pray to God. I can be anywhere. Sometimes if I want to do something, I always tell my sister that if I have to do something that I'm feeling scared about, I just say the grace. That's all. Just the grace. So I just say the grace, and some sort of peace just comes over me, and I'll be able to do exactly what I need to do at that moment. So this is what I've been driving on. Like every time people are like, hey cousin, you're good, how do you do it? Seriously, really, it's God, because most people don't like hearing that how do you do it, and they say it's God. Yeah, I know I do the work, but what keeps me going, what gives me the strength is the work, is the strength I get from God. Really, that's just the simple truth. I can't explain how I've gotten to this point in my career, this point in my life, without understanding the fact or the place of grace in everything. Because I was still telling someone the other day, in as much as we are in a country where certifications is really what people want to see. The only certificate I really used to work was my senior secondary school certificate, which was since 2016. And I have gotten jobs, I have worked with companies with my secondary school certificate. You understand? And this, in as much as, yeah, I know I'm good at my job, but it's only God that could have done any of those things. I really can't explain that. Going through school and working at the same time, I can't explain it. So I just what I'm just going to say is having the place of God, like making it a key part of your life, helps you overcome these feelings. You understand? And also the final thing I do is I talk to myself. I tell myself, guy, you are good. You are smart. Whenever I solve a problem at work, I just tell myself, guy, you're smart. Like, these things, it might not sound like a lot, but I noticed, I saw a change. So there was a time I actually felt like I wasn't, should I say, good looking? Yeah, I felt that way. And this feeling, so because of that feeling, I avoided a lot of things. I can't even start mentioning those things. I'm really embarrassed right now. But like, I avoided a lot of things. I stopped doing a lot of things. And suddenly, I think I heard it from somewhere. I really can't remember where. But I started saying these things. I am good looking. I am handsome. I am smart. Like, it sounds like all these things motivational speakers say, but there's always a shift when you speak to yourself. When you speak to your soul, you tell your soul, guy, you are smart. It's just like the same thing when you tell yourself, I am dumb. If you say it over and over, you start believing what you are saying, eventually you start acting dumb. And you find yourself in that pattern of being dumb. So you have to ensure you confess right things to yourself. So let me go over the 4 things I mentioned again. I get external motivation from family, friends. I also work on projects. I try to take things that are long term to ensure I get better at that thing. I have the place of God, which is very important. Very, very important. And I prophesy good things to myself. Those 4 things. That's how I manage imposter syndrome. And sincerely, if you are feeling imposter syndrome at any point of your career, just understand these things, that it's a normal feeling. It happens. You just have to ensure that you do your best and pray to God about it. Do your best. Take necessary steps. Speak to someone. Don't keep it in your head. Because I noticed it's when I started speaking to people, I learned that I found videos that I learned that it happens to other people. Then I felt like it wasn't like I'm some sort of like a crazy person in my head, because I had these feelings constantly. Like I would feel like I'm a fraud. Sometimes I'm like, guy, are you sure you're a programmer? Because tech itself is a very, very funny industry. Now everyone wants to get this tech, but I don't think when I got into tech, it wasn't everybody I wanted to get this tech. So it was more of, I just love this thing, I wanted to do it. So I had very few reference points to actually ask these questions at that point when I was starting. So it was more of, I was trying to figure these things out on my own. I don't know about any other career, but I believe this thing happens to everyone. It might not be feeling like a fraud. You just feel you are not good enough. You are not good enough. That alone is something that if you continue dwelling on, it would grow. Definitely. Trust me, it would grow. So you just have to kill it at that point. It's starting at that moment. Kill it. Tell yourself you are good enough. Tell yourself you are smart. These things, it sounds like aspire to perspire, but sincerely, it works for me. Personally, it works for me. It really does. So you can probably hit me out on any social media platform or via mail. So just let me know what works for you, how you have gone through these things, and how you manage it. Thank you very much. Have a lovely time. And apologies for not dropping an episode last week. A lot happened, but yeah. Thank you so much.